Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today we're starting off the Ice Monkeys with the top path ice, which is going to be the Super Brittle, along with the Embrittlement and the Ice Shards. So let's get straight into it with the tower's status. So the Ice Shards really isn't used in Chimps mode. It's like better for races and stuff like that. I'm not an expert in that, so we're doing Chimps only. Embrittlement is a really cool, really awesome common tower. We'll talk a lot about this later. It's a damage debuff support, and you're going to see this everywhere. And Super Brittle is just like that, but the stats are increased a lot and will allow to get some pretty interesting strategies using the Super Brittle. So for the Ice Shards, here are the stats. Not a whole lot going on there. Again, this is a tower that you'll see in races, so for the purpose of like doing damage, you won't see this in Chimps mode. So let's take a look at the next tower, which is the Embrittlement. So the Embrittlement, you'll see it will apply this debuff status, the Embrittlement status. The Super Brittle will do that, but just a lot higher, and this is really strong, like really good. So I'll like be showing like exactly how it works. You can also do some crazy things called MIB skipping, which you might not have seen before. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you check out and like learn how to MIB skip, you can do a lot of crazy things and really enhance your gameplay a lot. It's a bit of an advanced feature, so you'll definitely find it very cool. Now let's take a look at the cross paths. So for the Ice Shards, when you see it in races, I guess, it would be 3-2-0, but for the other ones, it would be 4-1-0 and 5-1-0. The Deep Freeze doesn't really have much of a bonus, so a lot of times it's just skipped and saved money. So let's take a look at what you would use to buff it. And as these are support towers, there's not really a whole lot you buff it with. Maybe just a village. Primary training is good. Usually you'll just have a village. Embrittlement, sometimes I guess it's not worth it to get a primary training, but if you have a Super Brittle, I'd say it probably is. It's a little bit of an extra cost, but yeah. So support towers, they tend to just not really get much support because they are the ones doing the supporting for the damage tower. So you'll see that for like the next episodes with glue and ice, not a whole lot there. But what it does support is towers with high projectile count and low damage. This is key. There's a lot of things you can do, like the ninjas that I just showed. These destroyers are great. You can also do some interesting things with like shrapnel. Can also work out. You won't really see this a whole lot. Super monkeys too. I didn't really show that there, but super monkeys are great with it. You'll see a lot of tack shooters, so like the tack zone and overdrive. I think that's really what I do for all of these examples here. You can also pair this very strange combination, but it actually is surprisingly effective. You probably haven't seen this before, but just a bunch of pop lists and a Super Brittle. Very cool. Anyways, let's take a look at these ice shenanigans. So I'm going to be starting off with this first concept, which is the MIB skip. So for the objectives, it's just MIB skip and Super Brittle strategies, and also putting Embrit in there. I did not put that on the text. I don't know why. I guess I just mentioned it now. So as you notice, this DDT comes around. This Dart Monkey should not be able to hit it and deal damage. However, it is. This is because the Embrittlement, when it hits a DDT, or well, I guess just a balloon with lead status and camo status, it will remove it for a temporary amount of time that only applies to the lead. So as you can see, if you have it in front, like way in front of the map, it will remove the camo, but it will not keep the lead property away. So that dart wasn't able to damage it. So you need to have this guy relatively close. It doesn't have to be in the range, but within a specific distance, because it will wear off after, I think it's 1.5 seconds. You'd have to check the stats, but it's just like close enough that it has to be close to the tower itself. So as you can see in this example, get all these attacks. These guys can't hit DDTs normally, but when you get an Embrittle close by, then it will be able to get it. And a lot of times, this is big to note, it may not be fully consistent when they're speeding through at later rounds. Like when it gets to 95, the speed kind of ramps in, so you might need a Sabo for it to be fully consistent. Anyways, that's kind of MIB skip, so let's get into the first example. I'm just going to be using Super Brittle with a pretty cool combination tower that just does a lot of projectiles, low damage. We're going to be looking at Quincy for this one. So you probably haven't really seen much. Well, I guess if you've seen some of my videos, you'll see that you can like buff up Quincy a lot, and he does a lot of damage. And one of the things that you can do is, besides like applying call to arms and a overclock to like really crank up the attack speed, you can add a damage debuff, which could be Super Brittle, to the mix, or just embrittlement. Typically you'll always see embrittlement, but you can ramp it up with Super Brittle even more and deal like way more damage. So in this setup, one thing that I kind of messed up a little bit, I'll point this out, is that Quincy's kind of far away from where I had my tack shooter and embrittlement. If I wanted to play this more optimally, Quincy would have been a little bit closer in, so it would have been like closer to the effect, because right now when Quincy starts attacking, it won't be under the debuff effect, but I guess a little bit later on it is, so it's not like the end of the world, but that's just something to take note of. And when we're using Quincy, you obviously know that like Quincy doesn't really do a lot of damage in the mid game, not really going to carry, so we're going to be getting another tower. This tower can or cannot synergize with the Super Brittle. Mostly we're probably going to have Quincy doing our work for that, but this time I guess it's better to get one that does, because you'll have more power in the late game, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot. As long as you can get the Super Brittle up in time, then you can start going for a bunch of stuff. So I just got a tack shooter, tack zone, that allowed me to go right into it. I got the Super Brittle, and now we're doing a lot of damage. Now I can kind of just buff up Quincy with attack speed, because we have a lot of damage being done, so the many projectiles now do a lot of damage. Now if we want to get even more damage and go absolutely crazy, we ramp up the attack speed, so it's super fast attacking, has so many projectiles, and they all do a lot of damage. And that's how you get crazy damage like that. It literally just melts the ZOMGs when we put our abilities in play. Also here would have been a great place to double discount. I sadly did not do that. A bit lame, I guess, but yeah. So really cool, interesting tech. If you've never tried it out, definitely interesting to try out Quincy. But there's also, just as I said, a ton of other options that you can use Super Brittle with. Just plop it in there, get the regular support, maybe increase the pierce. So you have options now to increase pierce, which is pretty cool, with like the Abyssal Lord of the Abyss or Abyssal Warrior. So that might really ramp things up and help out a lot. But yeah, just kind of buffing the stats up in appropriate ways by finding towers that have low damage and many projectiles, so you can just add the Super Brittle in. It will give them +5 damage, and then they'll be doing crazy amounts of damage. Another thing I guess to note in this run, besides watching round 98 getting destroyed up there, is that round 100 I got a first strike. This really isn't necessary, because when you're using something like that, like especially with attack zone and Super Brittle, that's just going to destroy round 100. If you need more damage, a Spike Storm with Super Brittle will also do a ton of damage, so it's probably not totally needed. Now let's take a look at the next example. I'm going to be doing this on Cornfield, and I'm just going to be doing this with attack spam with Super Brittle. So this also is another great combination. This is probably like really maxing out the projectiles, because these attacks, they do shoot a lot of projectiles, overdrives. You can get a whole bunch of them, and they have low damage and just a lot of projectiles. You keep getting more, and you keep getting more low damage projectiles. So once Super Brittle added into the mix, will ramp up each projectile that's being shot out of those attack zones. And by the way, there's a lot of them, by 5 damage, and that will add up really quick and can do an insane amount of damage. And on top of that, I'm also going to be getting a primary expertise in the mix a little bit later on, which will increase the pierce. So now these super high many attacks with a lot of damage will be affecting even more Bloons, just making it go crazy. And because of that, I'm going to be able to do no harvest. I guess that's not really the best example of like this strategy in total, because you really want to go like crazy with attacks and place a lot of them, and I wasn't able to do that. So just keep that in mind. If you have more space, you really can do a lot more. And now basically in the setup, I got Sada, started working my attacks, and I got a few overdrives, my village, alchemist for Sada, and This does pretty well on a lot of maps. It might go into your super brittle, but Bloons might have been a little bit of an issue before I could have actually gotten my super brittle itself. So I went for one ring of fire in the middle. That's just going to deal with everything very nicely, and super brittle comes very cool, very easy. So now it is time to save up for the primary expertise on top of this, round the setup off. I got a tax zone up there too, just because that's going to help a lot. Typically with this, if you have a lot of space open, it's better just to get more overdrives in one tax zone, but I was a little bit stuck with the space here, so I guess that was a smart decision. And now these rounds are just being taken care of. Also, a cool thing I guess that will come with this primary expertise, will get the ballista. It's actually pretty neat. Definitely not worth the 27k itself if you're just like trying to get a little bit of damage out of it, but if you're going to be supporting a bunch of towers, this for like the pierce benefit, it's actually a pretty good deal. Also, it can do some good cleanup too, which I guess will come in nice and handy here. But these rounds are just getting shredded, like not a whole lot going on. I got a relentless glue. I could have gotten like a U-jug in there to make it easy, but I just started racking up cash and ended with like 50,000k spare. Some of the later rounds got a little bit close, but that's kind of just because I had so much cash left over. And yeah, pretty nice, pretty easy. Round 100, the bad will go down very easily too, and have to use Sada's ability. Almost forgot to, but anyways, that's pretty much it. Really awesome, really cool tower, and I definitely recommend trying some strategies out. There's a lot of combinations that are really good, a lot of unique ones, some weird ones that also are very surprisingly effective. So yeah, you can do definitely some awesome things. And I guess just as an example of what it might ideally look like, I just placed a bunch of towers that probably would work out well, and include some more tax in that too. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye.